at its core, router is a messaging protocol. So it lets two blockchains talk to each other. Mm-hmm. Now, once within that construct, you could do anything. You could do a cross-chain DEX, a cross-chain yield farm, a cross-chain governance platform, cross-chain tornado cash, cross-chain anything, or a cross-chain NFT platform where you want to be on Ethereum, but the minting could happen on a slightly cheaper chain, a faster chain.
And really into Tron. And I like some features from Ethereum. I would like to leverage those features from Ethereum and, kind of have it work correctly. And this is pretty much the type of technology that router protocol is. It allows you, no matter what blockchain cult you're part of, it allows you to communicate with what other blockchains and just have it go through as just one transaction.
Welcome everyone to Medallion XLN's fourth podcast. I'm Gary Robinson, CEO of Medallion XLN, along with my fearless leader and friend, Dwayne Campbell, CEO of Medallion XLN. Hey, Dwayne.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode. You guys have been loving the podcast, and, I'm open to talking to everyone. So just send us an email at admin@medallionxln.io, and we will have you on the podcast. Also, our NFT collection is out now. Make sure you buy one. So, Rami, pretty much what Medallion XLN is we are in the space of asset management, right? So that's why I think it's really important what you're doing. And we're going to find out more about what Rami is doing right now. So, Rami, introduce yourself.
Yeah,
Who are you?
You can call me Ram. It's Ram or Ramani. So Ram is easier to. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you, Gary. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. You're welcome, Ram.
I am the co-founder and CEO of Router Protocol. Router is a cross-chain communication protocol that enables blockchains to speak with each other. And we've been building Router for close to 2 years now. And we're pretty excited with our journey so far. And I'll tell you more during the course of this conversation on our plans for Router and why we think cross-chain is important, interoperability is important, and so on and so forth.
Awesome. Yeah, so Router Protocol. Router Protocol is a cross-chain, I think we lost Gary, but he'll probably come back on. So Router Protocol is a cross-chain blockchain, correct? So that means that it's connecting multiple blockchains together. Could you explain more about how that works?
It's a cross-chain communication protocol. It will eventually get to a point where it will have its own blockchain, but at the moment it's just a cross-chain communication layer. There Gary's back.
Sorry about it. My computer went crazy.
So Router, so where do I start? Should I talk to you about why blockchain Router is important, cross-chain interoperability is important, or maybe start with how we started Router? Maybe why don't we talk about why? Yeah.
It's an hour-long conversation. Start wherever you want.
So no, I think it's fairly evident at this point that there's going to be a bunch of different blockchains. You have Ethereum. Ethereum is the king of the hill. For various reasons, early start, largest amount of dev bandwidth, so on and so forth. And then you have the various Ethereum L1 competitors, Avalanche, BSC, and Harmony and Fantom, and all these, let's call them EVM compatible L1 competitors. And then you have the non-EVM guys, right? You have, Solana and Cosmos ecosystem, and I don't know, maybe Polkadot as well, right? And then you have, the whole Algorand and Hedera Hashgraph and Cardano, and so there's a fair number of different blockchains competing for being the default operating system of the Web3 world. And then you have scalability solutions that are complementary to Ethereum. So we have Polygon, which is sort of complementary to Ethereum, and then you have that's more of a side chain, right? And then you have Optimism, Arbitrum, and then folks like Cartesia, etc., which are scaling up Ethereum by working with Ethereum. So you have those guys. So what you clearly have is a multi-blockchain world, and these, a great analogy to understand these would be to see them as various cities. You have New York City, you have London, you have Singapore, you have Dubai, and each of these cities have their own communities, right? Instead of neighborhoods and nightclubs and bars and all that, you have lending platforms and trading venues and NFT platforms and what have you in each of these different blockchains. And now, when you have that, and you clearly have a situation where no one blockchain, Ethereum is going to be very, very popular, the way New York City is or London is, but a significant part of humanity is going to live in places other than these two cities, right? So, same way, you have a good chunk of people will want to look at blockchains other than Ethereum for various reasons, right? I mean, it could be speed, congestion, cost. It could be factors related to scalability, right? I mean, most of these blockchains, especially the original blockchains, they sort of are trying to maximize, what we call the well-known blockchain trilemma, right? Your scalability, security, and decentralization.
Mm-hmm. Project management triangle.
But in this case, it's security, scalability, and decentralization, right? So you have Ethereum, it's completely decentralized, it's highly secure, but scalability is very low, right? But then you take something like a Solana or a BSC, and there are questions around how decentralized they are, right? And they probably are very decentralized, but the general consensus is that they're not as decentralized as Ethereum is, but they're highly scalable. No two ways about that, right? So, as an app developer, and as an end user, indeed, you are sort of in the current state of the world, you are sort of figuring out, do I need this flavor that is good on blockchain A, or do I need to maximize some other attribute which is better on blockchain B, right? That's a consistent trade-off that you're needing to make, right? And that's where cross-chain interoperability is important, right? I mean, you want to have, in the version 1 that we have today, we have a bunch of bridges that are fundamentally sending tokens back and forth. That's all for the most part they're doing, right? But I think the key here will be to start messaging across blockchains, communications across blockchains, and abstracting away the complexity of the blockchain from the end user, right? I mean, let me give you another perspective. 20 years ago.
Wait, before you do that, I just want to, because you said a lot, and I want our user to really appreciate what you just said, right? So what we're saying is that there's multiple blockchains that one can communicate with and send transactions, right? And blockchains are like a cult. Like there's the Bitcoin maximalists, there's the Ethereum people who think they're going to flip Bitcoin, like pie in the sky dreams. And there's all these different blockchains, and they all have their different followings and their different cults. And they have their reasons why they choose to go with that blockchain. But also there are other, I guess, technologies built on other blockchains, like if I am really into Tron and I like some features from Ethereum, I would like to leverage those features from Ethereum and kind of have it work correctly. And this is pretty much the type of technology that router protocol is. It allows you, no matter what blockchain cult you're part of, it allows you to communicate with other blockchains. and just have it go through as just one transaction.
That,
Is that correct? Is that a good
that's
assessment of what
that's pretty much
you
spot
do?
on. Yeah. So in fact, even in the current version, right, even in the current version, we have, let's say you are developing an app in Polygon, right, and we have this thing called Crosstalk SDK, where a user or an app developer would come in and just plug into the SDK and develop the app in Polygon, but still get users to his app from pretty much every other EVM blockchain, right? So you're not necessarily recreating your DApp for every blockchain ecosystem where you want a presence in. So that's very pretty very accurate. And obviously, we're not stopping there with the new blockchain that we're building. It's going to be far more integrated. But that's pretty much the idea, right? And it goes back to let's say early 2000, 20 years ago, right? I mean, early days of Web 2, late Web 1, whatever you want to call that time frame. If you remember, if somebody sent you a Word doc from your MacBook or a Linux thing to your Windows laptop, it was a pain opening it up. I mean, the formatting would be all awry, and you would have a ton of time trying to sort it out, right? I mean, and Dapps, you would have a tough time because all these were client-side apps, meaning the end user. A lot of the apps were very heavy on the end user side, so you had to separately configure them from on or for each user environment, right? And then the whole client server boom started. A lot of and I think it almost comes in cycles, right? And so a lot of the installation, a lot of the heavy lifting moved to the server side of things. So you have the AWS, you have the storage layer, the computation layer, and all that, right? EC2 instances and all that. And so what you have now is if somebody sends you a Google link, right? You might have a Pixel, an iPhone, a MacBook, or a Windows, or whatever, right? It's seamless. You just open it, you start editing. You don't need to worry about the complexity of the underlying layer, right? I mean, from a user experience perspective, the other analogy I like talking about is airline ticket booking, right? I mean, you go to Expedia or ClearTrip or whatever you use, Kayak, right? And then just type in, listen, I want to go from point A to point B. I want premium economy, first class, whatever, depending on what mood you're in, right? And you just decide dates, etc. And then you just get those options on your screen within 25 seconds, 30 seconds. You're not worried about behind the screens if it's going to the Emirates booking system or Apollo or whatever. They're like 15, 16 different booking systems, right, across various airlines. So all that complexity is abstracted away from the user, right? And all the heavy lifting is on the server side, if you will. The same way in blockchains too, what's going to happen is, people don't, except for the developers, most end users don't need to really worry about. I mean, there's a bit of a cult angle to it, but at the end of the day, the ease of use is far more important, right? I mean, so why should end users really worry about whether it's, Solana or Hashgraph or Ethereum or Avalanche or, they just want the best trade or the best yield farming opportunity or the cheapest way to mint their in-game NFTs or game tokens or the best way to do a cross-chain governance. Or, so that's the end goal.
Right. Before you continue, I just want to appreciate the point that you made as far as the evolution of technology. Like before, they used to need all these different individual software to access like assets, for example. And now it's pretty much a standard for applications to inherently receive these various applications that we would have to access individually. And that's what you're doing right now, where you're just kind of putting all these blockchains together. And it doesn't matter if you're in Solana or Polygon or Arbitrum or Wax, for example. Like you can use, or your blockchain allows you to interoperably create. So is it a create once and then block like that instance of data is deployed everywhere?
Same paradigm, yeah. Seamless interoperability. That's the keyword. Yeah.
So is the route token? I want to go deep. Actually, before I do that, Gary, do you have do you have a question? I don't want to, because us nerds are going to take over. Sorry about that.
Yeah, Rob, I appreciate the way you explained that. It made a lot of sense. And I was curious, when you are when someone's using it, is it kind of like a price line where you protocol automatically finds the best pricing for or the whoever has the less fees? It automatically finds that for the person that's using the protocol.
Yeah. So yeah.
Kind of like a Priceline.com
No,
thing.
so router protocol enables applications that can do that for you. So for instance, today, if you go to the Voyager.io, Thevoyager, the Voyager.io, you will have a seamless cross-chain swapping and trading engine that lets you trade between almost 10 to 11 different blockchains. So you can go from any token to any token, right? And so that's just one flagship app that has been built on top of Router. And Router itself does not really, I mean, there's only so many apps we can build. Router, think of Router as more of an operating system or a middleware layer. So there are multiple app developers, multiple Dapps builders that are building various such programs that sort of leverage cross-chain interoperability using Router, right? So that's in, we have a bunch of different products. We have the Router widget. So Router widget, if you're a DEX, let's say you are Define or QuickSwap or Uniswap or SushiSwap or something, right? And you just plug into the widget, and immediately your users can swap in from using your DEX interface to any other chain, to any other token, right? In fact, unfortunately, SushiSwap has gone with a competitor solution. It takes like 26 minutes, 30 minutes, right? And I mean, we take 90 seconds. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a sweetheart deal because the former SushiSwap employee sort of went and started this. Obviously, yeah.
So you take 90 seconds. Is that because Router is a layer 2 or Router protocol? Is that a layer 2 or is it just the SDK and you leverage various?
It's just more efficient code, more efficient architecture, right? I think, yeah, we've not even.
Oh, okay. Could you go deeper in the architecture?
Because the layer 2 part comes in when we actually have the Router blockchain, which is still some distance away. Right? I think this is just efficient engineering and architecture.
So because I would like to know what would the difference be between like inefficient architecture that takes 26 minutes and efficient architecture that you're talking about that takes, you said 9 seconds or 90 seconds?
90 seconds.
90 seconds. Could you explain more about the architecture?
Yeah, I think a lot of this now gets into. I need to get my CTO in for a more informed conversation. But
just as much as you understand
the calls, the design calls you make when you architect the system in terms of security and how fast you want it to be and how you sort of anticipate various extreme scenarios. I mean, one instance of efficiency that I can actually speak to is the TVL required, right? I mean, a lot of these bridges sort of go to town talking about how much TVL they have, right? I mean, and like it just doesn't make sense. I mean, as you know, it's a bridge, it's a measure of flow, not a static measure of how much is stuck there, right? So, for instance, I mean, how do you measure the traffic on the Brooklyn Bridge? Is it by the number of trucks stuck there every hour, or is it by the number of trucks passing to and fro, right? So, just to give you an example, I think some of our competitors, they launched a token just for getting initial community, and they managed to aggregate around, 700 million in liquidity. And they've done maybe 100 or 200 million transactions last month, right? We have done, across June and July, we would have probably done 300 to 350 million in transactions. And
350 to 300 million, because I know Visa, their thing is like 100 transactions per second. So how much transactions per second does that break down to? 100,000.
Oh, no. So right now we are very much on an Ethereum base. So I would imagine it would be if it's in Polygon, it would be, I don't think we are at Visa scale yet. I mean, so that's scalability. I'm talking about just the overall volume that is transacted on the bridge. Right? So that's what.
Okay.
So we have crossed 300 to 350 million in trades across various blockchains. And I want you to guess the amount of TVL locked on our bridge, right? On the Voyager bridge. That's a flagship app. Can you guess? Just round numbers.
No. How much? So wait, before I guess, let's define terms. TVL is total locked value.
Total value.
Correct?
Right.
Okay. So yeah. So
I'm looking for you to take a guess. I mean, if you're okay, I mean, just hazard.
Okay. 50 million. That's my guess.
I'm gonna say closer to 75 million.
All right. Let me tell you the final number. The number is $500,000. Yep.
500,000. Okay. That's good, right? That's money.
It enables us to do two things, right? It's helped us to be capital efficient, right? I mean, if you're a bank or an ATM, you want to have the ability to consummate transactions at a very high frequency and a high volume. But you don't want to store a shit ton of money. Pardon my French, but I mean, effectively, you're becoming a honeypot. The more TVL, the more capital that's locked, right? The more attractive you are to hackers. So that's why if you look at the bridging space, all those bridges that have emphasized total value locked as a measure, right, so Wormhole, 500 million in hacked, 500 million lost in hacks, right? And then obviously Jump came in and bailed them out. Thorchain, it's almost a rite of passage for a bridge to get hacked because it's such a complex architecture. There's so many things that are beyond your control. But even allowing for that fact, the reality is we don't need a lot of TVL on bridges. TVL is a very, very false metric. It's a sort of an inexact metric for AMMs. It's a very irrelevant, almost an irrelevant metric for bridges if you design them right? So that's the other measure of efficiency that I keep talking about, right? So router has been architected in a way, engineered in a way where it's pretty efficient and pretty fast and pretty secure.
Ram, if I remember correctly, you go more on TVT, total volume translated versus TVL. Is that correct? That's
right. That's a great way. We haven't thought about it that, but I think it's total volume transacted, which is a far more interesting measure than total volume locked. Yeah.
Nice. So, router protocol. You guys do fund transfers. You do asset swaps. You do optimal price for token swaps. Like, let's go into a few of these features. Tell me about your fund transfers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we are at its core, router is a messaging protocol. So it lets two blockchains talk to each other. Mm-hmm. Now, once within that construct, you could do anything. You could do a cross-chain DEX, a cross-chain yield farm, a cross-chain governance platform, cross-chain Tornado Cash, cross-chain anything, or a cross-chain NFT platform where you want to be on Ethereum, but the minting could happen on a slightly cheaper chain, a fast chain. So pretty much every app out there can use mix and match features from various blockchains, right? So a solution that's fundamentally promoting interoperability sort of lets any app that wants this ability to pick and choose, cherry pick features from across blockchains. It's useful to them. So that's why, for instance, even in the router V1, we have the widget that I mentioned that can plug into any DEX, right, and then give users the ability to go from. In fact, we have our own DEX called Define, DFYN, and then users can come to that. It's on Polygon, but they can, using the router widget, talk to any platform, almost 10 to 11 blockchains, right? They can trade in and out from that Polygon interface to pretty much any blockchain and from any blockchain, right? That's a widget. And then we have the Crosstalk SDK. The Crosstalk SDK is primarily for app developers that want to do a little bit more heavy lifting, but it lets them sort of then engineer solutions that are fundamentally cross-chain native, right? So you speak to multiple parties that want to build cross-chain yield farms, right? You have a certain bit of capital, right? And you want to sort of keep that in one chain, but then the algorithm on the back end sort of allocates that across yield farming opportunities across various chains. Right? So there's a bunch of projects that are doing that. In fact, we have some interesting internal pilots that we want to release out into the wild. So there's a lot of teams have approached us for this specific use case, right? Let's say NFT players are trying to use, NFT creators are using that primarily for seamlessly going across platforms. So this is the Crosstalk SDK. And then the third thing we have is the Pathfinder API, right? So this is an API that we've built on top of 1inch, and this is more for developers that want to find the most efficient path across blockchains, right? Navigate. So those are the three projects we have in V1, and V2 obviously going to be far more exciting. It's going to be our own blockchain.
So as far as the Voyager app, that's just a sample app to illustrate to people this is what a router protocol wallet or a wallet that uses the router protocol SDK is capable of. You can send between all these different blockchains. So my question for that is, is that wallet, because that's your product, but it's also more of an advertising thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a demonstration of what Router can do. It's like a flagship app, right? So, you build a piece of software and people want to know what can this do. Boom, there you go, Voyager.io. That's what we can do.
Right. So do you have? I think what you should do is make that into a template that other developers could just download and just kind of stick that wallet into their app, and then boom.
Yes.
I think that is a good. Unless you're doing that already, then
we're doing a lot of that. But you're absolutely right. I think we need to sort of get the word out there that anybody can just take that and copy paste and just make their app naturally cross-chain compatible. You're absolutely right. I think part of the challenge also is that where we are with the fundraising cycle, we have a couple of competitors that are maybe behind us from a product perspective, but ahead of us from a fundraising perspective, right? So
that's how it always is. Huh?
There's a lot of noise out there, and even if you have something which is faster and better and cheaper, and somebody has been in your face 10 times, and I've been in your face one time, you'll probably buy the product from the person that has talked to you 10 times, right? So I think that's part of the challenge. In fact, we were about to close because of the current bear market, we sort of push back fundraising plans, right? We don't want to sort of race in this current market. But I think in the next couple of quarters, we will do another round. And at that point, there's going to be a far more... fortunately, a lot of the... fundraising rounds are the biggest splashes. I mean, people think that a project has raised 50, 60 million. They assume that, oh my God, they have the best product. Unfortunately, all that shows that they're good at raising capital, and they might attract talent and might build the best product, right? So I think it's the reality of the world, right? So,
That's why it's good to have a good team, a very diverse team, because you're the CEO, correct? And then you have a trusted CTO, you have probably a marketing person. I know I was talking to Lindsay, she's your PR person. So you have all these different pieces in place, and they all serve different functions. And I'm sure they're really good at it. So, I think you should try, and I will do as well, to poach top talent from other companies and just tell them like, hey, we're the future. And instead of raising all this money for this garbage company, you can come work for us and raise money.
No, I think you're spot on. And in fact, we have actually hired a very senior guy from an L1. He was part of an L1 blockchain, and then he spent time building his own protocol. And then he has actually started working for us. But because he is in his gardening leave, we can't go public. But I mean, it's major news. I mean, it's like we're super excited about that. So I think end of August we can actually announce that, because his gardening leave is coming to an end. But that's exactly the playbook that we are sort of in the process of rolling out.
Well, I think I read that you recently raised $4.1 million investment. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right. We've raised, I think the number is closer to 5. We've been sort of periodically, there's a fund that contacts us and they want to put in some capital. And, typically, there are two ways in which capital is raised, right? One is especially for, and I'm being brutally honest here, right? I mean, when a token is out, it's actually more difficult to raise capital because, you have typically token raises are done at a discount to the current market valuation. Right. So in the current market, it's almost impossible for us to raise the amount of capital that we ideally want to raise. Right. So whereas a lot of the new projects that came after us they don't have the token public out yet. Right. So the valuation is literally a finger waving exercise. And, and obviously, a lot of them are living and breathing and eating in places like New York and San Francisco, which is part of the reason why a lot of the team has moved to Dubai, where, we're still sort of in the mix. Right? Sitting in Bangalore, it's tough to sort of attract that level of capital. In India, a Series A is 5 million. In the Valley, a Series A is 50 million. That's a big difference, right? So,
Wow.
Yeah.
So in Dubai, is that where you're based?
We're based
right
in Dubai.
now?
That's right. Yeah.
So tell me about Dubai. I've always been interested about Dubai because it's one of those cities that were recently built, and they kind of manufactured it, right? But it also has some geological strategic importance because it's a huge port city, correct? So could you tell me more about Dubai and like what's the culture like over there?
Oh, Dubai is great. I mean, I think it's been it's been a port city for a while, and port cities have an interesting characteristic. Singapore, Dubai, and and then it's been
in San Francisco.
Yes. Yeah. Pretty much a lot of the US cities like so Dubai is it's also central. It's very tax efficient. It attracts a lot of people that like the lifestyle. I mean, the heat gets a bit too much for a few months, but otherwise it's a beautiful city, nice climate. I think fundamentally it's very open. It's a pretty free culture. I mean, there are elements that are a bit unsavory, but there are such things. There's no perfect place in the world. Right? I mean, you go to any San Francisco, New York, I mean, there are things that you don't like. So, but at the balance, it's a fast-growing city.
Definitely.
There's a lot of, especially for crypto entrepreneurs, there is a lot of focus on innovation and getting folks to come in and do their thing. And the Emirates sort of compete with each other to be at the forefront of innovation, right? I think that's one big difference between Singapore and Dubai, right? I spent a lot of time in Singapore before Dubai, and what I found was while the Singapore government sort of is very progressive, they have the right idea. There is a lot of bureaucracy, and although they say they're crypto friendly, you couldn't really get a bank account as a crypto company. Even now, I mean, even if you put blockchain on your website, banks won't give you a bank account. I mean, at least the prime bank. I mean, the challenger banks, the web-only banks, they might, but the mainstream banks won't give you a bank account. Whereas in Dubai, there are 7 Emirates, right? And they all compete with each other. And it's healthy competition, right? So you have the strategic decisions made at the senior most level, they actually percolate through without too much dilution to the front line where the implementation occurs. So you've seen, a lot of the big funds, a lot of the big entrepreneurs, still the CC Bonanza's here, a bunch of exchanges are coming here. It's a great time to be in Dubai right now, especially if you're, in general, if you're in technology, especially if you're in crypto.
Right. So the crypto scene in Dubai is huge, you would say.
Yes, it has always been big and it's growing fast.
Wow. So which part of Dubai do you live? Because I'm only familiar with the tourist areas. So do you live in the Burj Khalifa, or do you live in the Palm Tree Islands, or you're doing it big?
A lot of the crypto folks end up going to these places, but that's like living in, I don't know, man. I mean, familiar with Manhattan, I spent a ton of time in New York, but that's like saying, do you live in Central Park West or, something like that? So most normal folks don't.
I don't know. I don't know. You could be a crypto millionaire. You could be doing it big.
I think we a lot of the team lives away from the main city, like 10 to 15 minutes away, right? And then there are these small communities, sort of maybe 10, 15 minutes away from the heart of the crowd and all that. Yeah.
So there's this emergence of smart cities coming up, right? And I think this is being pioneered by the blockchain because, entrepreneurs are building, efficient smart contract technology that can get rid of a lot of jobs. But if we think about it, like this is just how society has to progress because, and just to expand on that thought a little bit more, Adam Smith, right, the father of capitalism, he wrote about like how, as society progresses, then tools become outdated, right? So we used to dig holes with our hands, and then we got a metal object and started, hitting the ground with it. And then we said, hey, instead of hitting the ground with this metal object, let me add a wood, and now I have a shovel, right? And then with the advent of machinations, we got tractors. Now we can just dig into the ground and pull everything up in this, and you wouldn't use a shovel anymore to do the work of a tractor, correct?
Right.
So that bringing it back to blockchain and how, smart contracts can run a city, or smart contracts can run your train station system. It can run your just government areas. Like instead of going to the DMV and waiting in line, just go get streamlined. Like the thing about a smart contract is it's going to do just that thing forever, right? So you can always count on it to just do that thing. So, we can streamline a lot of these government things, and then the society, especially if we figure out an incentive-based tokenization scheme, the society can use that money instead of us paying the city's now paying the residents to, innovate and build. And there could be just so many more different society, I guess, I don't remember the word I'm looking for, but like there could be so many different political escapades, like just trying to figure out how to best run a society with this new monetization scheme. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it sort of goes back to what you're mentioning at the beginning of the conversation, right? Around cults, and also, there's a recent book by Balaji Srinivasan around network states, right? So it's interesting. It's very similar to what you're just describing, where you could have these loose collectives that sort of span current geographical or political constructs, and they could get together and create their own groups that could sort of incentivize a specific form of behavior. I mean, the specific example I think was mentioned is around a group of collective that wants to encourage keto adoption, right? And that could be one.
Right.
So you could conceivably have, I think we're still some distance away though, right? Because I think we'll probably get to some form of that in some form or shape. But I think there's a lot of things that need to happen in terms of wider crypto adoption, right? Because if you think about it, crypto is still a bit of I wouldn't call it a fringe phenomenon, but it's still on the sidelines, right? I mean, people are still talking about Web 2 versus Web 3, as if these are. But what's going to happen eventually is people are going to realize that the Web 2 model, where all these gatekeepers like Google and Facebook and these guys who were basically for the privilege of giving you some a few minutes of dopamine hit every few hours, they were basically making your personal data the product, right? I mean, once people realize that they're extracting value out of your personal information, so that is sort of seeping in, right? And then you have self-sovereign identity. You have fundamental.
So, exactly what you're talking about is the problem that Medallion XLN is solving. And the way we're solving it, I do want your opinion on this. The way we're solving it is we're allowing each person to pretty much own their own data. So what does that mean? Like when we're using the internet, we have all these different interactions that we're making. And if we assetize all of those interactions into an NFT, like the fact that I'm on this website watching this podcast, that has to be valuable to someone who's interested in advertising me technology stuff or blockchain related products, right? So instead of that data being sold to just random people and I don't get rewarded for it, what Medallion does is we track the data, and in order for someone to access the data, they have to first pay you and go through you before anyone else is able to use that data. So what that does, in order to make that work as efficiently as possible, we add permissions, right? Because if I'm uploading a NFT image, right? Depending on the content of the image, there might be some people that I don't want to see or don't want to see it, or I might not want to sell that particular image. So so with each asset that you create, you can customize the permissions, and then in order for someone to access that, or when someone buys your data, they have to abide by your rules as to what they can do with your data. So that's the company that we are, and I can definitely see us integrating the router protocol because we also have the value of interoperability. Because in the metaverse, like the metaverse is going to be far beyond just AR headsets and VR headsets. The metaverse is going to be this all-encompassing thing that breaks, like it's going to be like the digital world overlaid on our world, right? And you'll have to wear glasses and contact lenses in order to interact with this world. But at the same time, every single asset that you interact with, that should be attached to an NFT. And that's the long-term goals of what Medallion is planning to do.
Fascinating. And do you guys have your own blockchain or?
So we are building our own blockchain. It's not ready yet, but we're definitely building our own blockchain. And I definitely want to, but I think more than anything, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? Because there's other great blockchains like Ethereum. There's great layer 2s on top of Ethereum. So since Ethereum is the most popular blockchain, that's where we're going to start. And then we're going to build a layer 2 on top of it that handles the assets model and that entire system. So we can definitely, since Ethereum is going to be our main blockchain or our main blockchain interface, like integrated router protocol, we can access all these other blockchains as well and just create your asset once, and that asset is distributed across all the different networks.
Well, I agree. I think as entrepreneurs, I think what we also want to think about is what our core skills are. And I think certain projects are fundamentally outward facing in that they are B2C, whereas certain projects are more B2B. Right? So router is more an infrastructure layer, more plumbing and tooling, whereas a lot of the metaverse projects, it seems to me, are more B2C. You got to sort of get the community excited. It's a lot of heavy lifting how we build that, right? So I think what we encourage a lot of folks that come to us, why do you want to build your blockchain, right? I mean, let's do the heavy lifting for you. Why don't you just integrate into router and focus on the community building and the marketing and the end user experience, right? So I think I'd love to learn more and see exactly where the fit is. And I'm sure it's, this is, going back to your first question, right? I think self-sovereign identity is super critical, right? And then on top of that, you have fundamental scalability improvements coming with ZK, all those zero knowledge proofs and all those fascinating solution. ZK Sync is around the corner. And then you have scalability, security, and then you have really cool UI, UX enhancements happening. So I think we're going to be in a situation where nobody's going to talk about are you Web 2 or are you Web 3. You're just going to be natively Web 3. I mean, that's when you know that blockchain/crypto is not a fringe or a sideline, sidebar thing. It's the thing. I mean, every 20 years ago, people would 30 years ago, right? Do you have a website, right? I mean, nowadays people don't even ask you do you have a website. If you don't have a website, you don't exist. You're irrelevant, right? So it should be like that.
Yeah.
Tokenomics and the blockchain. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I would say that was even 10 years ago because my come up story is I started off as a graphic designer.
Wow.
Just going business to business.
Uh-huh.
And eventually people just started asking if I could build them a website. So at the time, you could still get away with direct mailing. Mm-hmm. So I was able to build them a website and give them a social media presence. Right. And that, brought in some extra traffic for them. So that's kind of my origin story with the websites and stuff.
And it's cool. I love these origin stories, right? Because what they teach you in business school is, what's an area, what's an opportunity, what's a saturated field. Any business school case study, this would be, this is not a big enough market. But for a young, willing to hustle entrepreneur, this is a great market. It gives you a break and, you move on to the next level from there.
Yeah. And you get to learn. And nothing teaches you like experience.
Exactly.
Experience is the great, if you were in a fighting movie, experience is the master that you have to be at the end.
True.
And you're going to fight that master over and over again. And he's going to beat your ass. But eventually, you'll win.
And also doing trumps a kilo of learning, right? I mean...
Yeah. Actually, Dwayne designed my website. Actually,
nice.
right.
I'm also an actor. Speaking of movies, so he designed my website, which gave me a huge media presence.
I swear to God, you have a familiar face. Are you in I'm sorry. Are you in any mainstream Hollywood movies? Have we seen you somewhere recently?
No, anything you would see me on American television would be Scandal, the TV show Scandal. I was on there.
Scandal, Netflix. It's on Netflix, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to see Scandal just to look for you. Okay.
Season 6, episode 1.
Done. Fascinating.
There you go. So I would like your... I would like, or were you finished, Gary? Or
a quick question for Ram. With everything that the Router Protocol is doing and what we're doing as well, what has been your biggest challenge security-wise?
Oh, it's fascinating. I'm glad you brought it up, right? I mean, I think one of the analogies I like is, it's like routers like airlines connecting the blockchains. And it's a nightmare. So many things can go wrong, right? When you operate a bridge, I mean, you could have, you obviously have intrinsic security issues with the design or the solidity or with some of the piece of the code. Then you have external, like for instance, the Harmony Rainbow Bridge got hacked, right? And then what happened was that there was some USDT on Harmony which became worthless, but because we were connected to Harmony, people started swapping out that worthless USDT for valuable USDT on Polygon chain. We caught it within a couple of minutes, but we still lost around 15 to 20K. Right? I mean, we had the checks and balances. So there are so many things that can go wrong, and this is something I want to talk about. It. We actually, if you go back to Q1 2021, we actually had the world's first cross-chain asset transfer solution before any of the names you have right now. But I mean, we just knew that every step, there's so many things. We were about to launch in late Q2, early Q3. In that 1 week, ThoughtChain and I think a bunch of other names, right, got hacked. And then so we got in Halbon Protocol, we got in Hackin, we got in QuillHash, we got in a bunch of other white hat hackers. And it's so security is sort of literally 20 to 30% of our thinking. And in the bridging space, right? It's because there's so much in transit, so much capital in transit at any given point. And you can imagine 300 million has flowed in the last couple of months. So you can imagine that it's a pretty big honeypot, even if it's not in the form of TVL, right? Yeah, anything can go wrong. Then there are some really smart brains that are helping us, but we know that there is a lot of other smart brains waiting for a chink in the armor and extracting value. That's just the nature of the game.
Yeah. It's so hard to figure out like how to do this, which is why like the game theory that's inherent in blockchain is so helpful. Could you explain some of the game theory that router protocol is putting into play?
I mean, it's just usual incentivization. We have these white hat hacker incentives that sort of, it's actually in 99.99% of time, it's just easier for the hacker to just come and tell us there's a bug and sort of, claim the reward because the TVL is actually fairly low, right? So I think that's one incentive. And then, the TVL is, because the TVL is very low, right? I think, and then obviously the natural blockchain game theoretic stuff, that's not something special we are doing, but it's just inherent to any blockchain, right? The Byzantine general problem and all that. Yeah.
So the TVL is low. So that means, so is that a future kind of design model where you want to keep these chains as low volume as possible and just have multiple chains that scale the volume? Or
I think you don't need a lot of TVL, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to run an international banking system, right? I mean, you need enough liquidity to service a request. Let's say you walk into Citibank in San Francisco and tell them, listen, I want to transfer 10,000 to New York or 15,000 to London. I mean, I don't need to keep, as Citibank in San Francisco, the branch, you necessarily don't need to have 10 million in volume to service that, right? So, and most banks don't have that, right? I mean, it's one of the positive outcomes of the fractional banking system, right? I mean, and in these days it's all electronic, so they don't really have the physical cash, right? So I think we want to have a system which lets you service a lot of trades in an efficient manner without being a honeypot. So definitely low TVL is going to be a fundamental engineering target.
Yeah, I think that's really smart as well, because as we've learned from all these hacks, it's better to distribute, the funds as opposed to keep it in one place where all the hackers are like, I want that. It's funny how the hacks are strengthening our ecosystem, because now we're building with these defenses in mind, and
Right.
It's really making stronger and stronger products.
Yes. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Yeah, 100%. I think.
Yeah. So you also do cross-chain apps. Could you explain that as well?
Yeah, so that's what we spoke about in terms of the earlier on, right? I mean, we people can come to Router and build apps that leverage cross-chain messaging. So we don't. So we have one app, Voyager, that enables cross-chain shops. But otherwise, our focus is to sort of evangelize an ecosystem where other developers can come in and use Router products, the widget, the SDK, the Crosstalk SDK, the Pathfinder API, and build or weave interoperability into their native dApps. That's more the focus rather than trying to build any individual app.
Right. And I guess, what is your end goal in doing this? Because there's an obvious short-term goal of developers being easily able to integrate an interoperable wallet, right?
Yeah.
I'll call it a wallet, right?
Yeah.
And so where do you see Router protocol once that fundamental goal has been accomplished?
No, I think cross-chain interoperability is going to be critical. Same way that operating systems on dumb desktops, which was the norm in the 90s, that led to a world where every operating system or smart device is expected to be on the internet these days, right? So in the same way, you'll have cross-chain interoperability as a basic tenet, and you already see that with L1 chains, that they're not fundamentally designed with that as the purpose, but eventually they'll evolve to a stage where they'll make interoperability possible. And you'll have solutions like Router that will also approach it from a cross-chain interoperability first perspective, right? So you'll have all these systems coming together, trying to build interoperability, and it's not a winner-take-all world, right? It's a at the end of the day, it's going to be a bunch of different systems that figure out a way to talk to each other, and then depending on what app you're building, or what application you're developing, you'll have your own favorite mechanism.
Right.
The mission
So,
is build a blockchain that is cross-chain native and helps a lot of these use cases.
so with Ethereum updating to Serenity,
Yeah.
do you see anything fundamentally changing with the update that would directly affect router protocol, or after they integrate their 63 shard chains, will everything still be going as?
I think there's a couple of answers to that, right? I mean, one is obviously from a token overall crypto market thing. I mean, a successful merge is going to be great because that's going to, the moment Ethereum rises, Bitcoin rises, all the other alt tokens rise. So that's a good thing. But that's a very short term. Yeah, it's a side effect. The cooler thing is, Ethereum. It's going to be more secure, and it's going to be almost deflationary after the merge, at least the phase one of the merge, right? And then it's not going to be hugely additive to scalability. It's going to be maybe a 10% increase in scalability. What's going to be increasing scalability? The sharding update that comes maybe another 9 to 12 months down the line, right? But I think fundamentally, any update to Ethereum is going to be additive to what we're doing at Router, definitely, in terms of performance and scalability and token price and all that. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Oh, Gary, I'm sorry. Getting lost in nerddom again.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Gary. What,
I'm going to backtrack for a second. I just had a question for you as far as Arbitron and Optimism. What were why did you choose those two in particular to add to your platform?
Well, we sort of chosen pretty much all the major EVM chains, right? So we started with Polygon, and then BSC, and then Avalanche, and then Arbitrum, Optimism, Fantom, Near. So pretty much all the EVM compatible chains are something that we've aggregated. And Arbitrum Optimism, obviously, a lot of the native Ethereum crowd is sort of using Arbitrum and Optimism extensively because they are not competing with Ethereum, right? So Arbitrum, Optimism, and Polygon are something that really appeals to ETH maxis in a way.
Okay.
yeah. Could you tell me more about your token? Because I know the route token, correct, is used. Is that what's used to transfer value between the chains?
Yes, absolutely. So route token at the moment it's used for paying fees when you want to sort of transfer. So you can actually on the Voyager Dapp you can pay fees using router, USDC, native tokens, whatever. But using router you get a small discount. But in general, the SDK you need router to pay your fees. Then you integrate the SDK into your Dapp. On the widget, not necessarily. The widget is a far simpler product, so you can have, as you're running your DEX and the DEX as a DEX token, we can make the DEX token the fee, right? I mean, it's perfectly fine. In the blockchain that we have, eventually route token will be used by validators for staking and validation. So that's going to be part of the pipeline way forward. Yeah.
Right. So as far as asset swaps, right?
Yeah.
Or before I go there, So let's say I'm transferring Ethereum to Bitcoin. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Can we transfer Ethereum to Bitcoin with the
Yeah,
router
you could swap
protocol?
to Bitcoin.
Okay.
You can try, if you're not linked to the Bitcoin ecosystem, but you could get WBTC on any of the EVM chains there.
Okay. So in
Currently, not.
that transaction from, or can we do Ethereum to Cosmos? Can we do that?
Again, wrap Cosmos. So right now, we've got to understand we're just EVM compatible. So we're not connected to the Cosmos ecosystem or to the Bitcoin blockchain.
Okay. So you're
That's going to be phase 2.
virtual machine compatible. That means that like you can transfer from like Ethereum to Tron or Ethereum to Binance Chain because those are EVMs as
Ethereum,
well.
BSC, Avalanche, Polygon, Arbitrum, Optimism, Harmony, Fantom, and then Moonbeam, Kava, extra coming up. Yeah, so all the major EVM blockchains. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. So in the transfer of tokens, I'm trying to figure out like, do we send router or do we send our chosen token?
Oh no, you can swap from. It's exactly like using Uniswap or SushiSwap. It's just that you can do it across chains. So you swap from Ethereum to Bitcoin or Ethereum to whatever token you want to. Just that under the hood, the router does all the plumbing and the connecting and the talking to each other. And you can even pay your fees on the Voyager app on any token, a bunch of stables. But if you use router, obviously there's a promotion going on. You get a discount on your fee.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So that's where I was stuck. I was thinking like maybe our route is a wrap token that's connected to all these different things, and I would need to send route specifically. But
no. So that is V0. So early on, TorchChain had a solution. That's actually it's very dangerous because let's say it's in route token. Excuse me. There's a lot of price volatility. So you move from source token to route, and then by the time the route moves to the destination token, the route price can fluctuate. So, in fact, that's one of the reasons why TorchChain moved away from that design, right, where they had Rune as the medium of exchange, medium of transfer. So that's actually a very inelegant design.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start wrapping up. Is there anything that you would like to, say or talk about in our last 10 minutes?
Yeah, no, I think it's been, I think the cross-chain is going to be super important. And, there's going to be applications in DeFi, in the metaverse, etc., that will necessarily need cross-chain capabilities. And check out Voyager, the Voyager app, the Voyager.io, check out the SDK, the widget, etc. And if you have, we are hiring as most good growing companies are even in the bear market. So if you're a developer or a community builder, just reach out to us, and we'd love to have a conversation.
What email would they reach out, or how would they reach out to you?
Yeah, you could. I think the best way would be to DM me on Twitter.
And what?
CryptoMan_R.
CryptoMan_R.
_Ram, RAM.
Oh, RAM. CryptoMan_Ram. RAM.
Yeah.
All right. So Gary, what did you learn from this conversation?
I learned that I need to learn a lot more.
I
learned a lot. I read a lot beforehand, but I learned a lot more just listening to Ram talk and hearing your question that you asked him also. I am not a high-tech crypto person. I'm learning as I go along.
All of us are.
But I'm learning a lot.
Gary,
I have a huge sales background and acting background and some marketing, PR, that type of thing. So you can tell I'm not quite as young as you guys. So yeah, as Dwayne reminds me often.
You're up there. But Gary, you gotta turn your hearing aid up.
Yeah, I've learned a lot talking to you guys. I appreciate all the knowledge from even Dwayne.
Gary, can I tell him your secret?
I
Aha.
don't know.
Sounds good, interesting.
It won't be much of a secret. It won't be much of a secret if you tell it.
I just want to share this with everyone. Like, Gary doesn't know how to copy and paste. I was so shocked. I was so shocked. I was like, how do you not know how to copy and paste? Like, I just do it so automatically that I don't even think about it anymore. And like to know that like his gauge of technological advancement hasn't reached there yet. It's like watching a National Geographic and you see this weird bird that you've never seen before. You're like, oh, I didn't know that thing existed.
That's so rude. It's not that I can't do it.
You just have to Google it.
I just don't do it often.
You got to get Gary to install MetaMask and connect to his Ledger wallet.
Oh man, I'm dreading going through that. Meta, who? Meta, like Mark Zuckerberg?
Well, I write great articles, though. I write great articles.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
I just can't copy and paste them.
I had to give him like a whole tutorial. Like first you gotta Control C, then you gotta Control V, and it works. I promise.
What are these control things you speak of? I don't understand. I don't see anything that says control on my keyboard. I don't understand.
I forget he has a Windows, so CTRL. Like, oh my god, it's like so much to explain. But yeah. So do you what positions are you hiring right now, Ram?
Yeah, primarily developers, Rust and Golang and things like that. And then primarily developers, right? And then a couple of community guys, which I think probably done. I think fundamentally, it's all about coding talent at this moment, right? So yeah.
So I want to get your opinion on the firms that have been going bankrupt recently, like Celsius and a lot of crypto firms. Like, why do you think that they're going bankrupt? Do you think it's just poor management of the company, or?
Got it. Quick heads up, I have another call in 10 minutes, so I might have to drop off in 3 minutes, but
cool.
Love to take that question, which is, it's just part of every cycle, right? I mean, you have folks that sort of, buy into the bus and get ahead of themselves, and, everybody wants to FOMO in, and, even though, it's too good to be true, right? I mean, you just end up putting all your money, life-saving in Celsius or Anchor, or, and then there's an economist called Hyman Minsky that talks about how bubbles grow in a certain state of the world, and then when they start deflating, what made the bubble grow also make it deflate very fast. And then there's sort of a Damascene movement in every bubble, and obviously people who are very good at identifying that make a lot of fortunes. So I guess are lucky enough to identify that. Yeah.
And it happens every single time there's a bear market. It's like these people don't know that bear markets exist, right? Because like when it's super bullish, everyone's all go, and then the bear market, like all these companies go bankrupt. I'm like, why don't you know this? Like it's happened so much times already. Yeah. So.
I mean, it's a bit like it's like the fifth drink you're having at 3 a.m. You're better off just calling it a night, going and sleeping. But everybody's having a drink. You want to have the last drink, although it's going to make you throw up in the next half an hour. Right?
For sure.
It's tough. We are ultimately slaves to our emotions and whatever immediate impulses, I guess. Right? We're all just human.
For sure. All right. Well, Ram, thanks for joining. Everyone, if you are a developer, integrate router protocol. Check out the Voyager app, which is their flagship app. Figure out how to integrate that into the wallet, into your wallet, and let's have router protocol be able to hire more people, right, and become one of the biggest blockchain SDKs. Yeah,
absolutely. We got the widget, the SDK, the Crosstalk SDK, the Pathfinder API. So you can find us on Telegram, on Twitter. Yeah, we'll send you the socials and you
For
can
sure.
publicize
For
that.
sure. Yeah. All right. Thanks a
Rob,
lot.
thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here.